Hey everyone, I'm Austin.
And I'm Mitch.
And this is Super Platinum Achievement. We are out of 2020 and we are looking back at the year that was 2020. It's way back. We're flooring the pedal and getting out of here.
Yeah.
It's way in our rear view.
Lost.
So we already did do a top 2020 game list. If you want to check that out, we had some fun with that one. Mm-hmm. But now we're going to kind of turn the wheel a little bit, keeping the car analogy going.
2020 was not a good year.
No. So it was also a good year for games, but it also was a bad year for some stuff.
So we're going to stay negative here.
Yes.
And we're going to do the bad things.
So I think we're just going to call it the worst video game stuff.
Instances of 2020.
Yeah, so it's not just games in here. I think it's just the video game industry as a whole, just kind of the worst things that happened. Some games, some other not, that just happened last year. So
in no particular order.
No, I think we're just going to kind of throw it out there. I'm just going to start with this one. Marvel's Avengers was probably one of the worst launches of 2020, if not like recent history.
Yeah.
It was, very expensive game, super expensive on the voice actors. I mean, we got Nathan Drake and
Nolan North and Troy Baker.
Yes, so we got Nathan Drake and Joel from Last of Us in one game together again. Plus some other pretty big video game character like people in the industry. And yeah, this game definitely launched very subpar. Not a lot of end game content. I think it was really killed it, but it just wasn't very fun. They've since updated the game and added more stuff. And
at this point, I think Square Enix is just going to cut their losses and move on. It was a bad launch, and I don't think they're going to be able... It was such a huge gap, what they spent compared to what they make. I'll put the gap here, because I don't have it in front of me. This is how much they lost. Yeah, I know it was a lot of money, and I don't think they're going to be able to recoup that no matter what they do. So that was one of the worst things, more so for Square Enix.
But hopefully they're looking up this next year. We got some Final Fantasies on the horizon. Mm-hmm. So with the continuation of the 7 remake and obviously Final Fantasy 16 coming out in the near future. So
the next one, this is going to be controversial for a lot of people because it is very split for what people think of this. And that's The Last of Us Part 2. For us, this was our biggest disappointment, I think, of 2020 because The Last of Us was a masterpiece. It's my second favorite game of all time. I was so looking forward to The Last of Us Part 2, and really the first, 40 to 50% of the game was living up to that, and then it hit a wall and kind of spiraled down and zigzagged and fell in a puddle of poo.
And poop again!
We have a full review. It might be a little dated now, but if you want to check that out still to kind of really get our full impressions. But yeah, it's just, for us, the story just fell flat and not with all the controversy surrounding it, just like,
how they executed everything.
I don't want to be bored while I'm playing a game. And I struggled to finish this game because I was so bored with it. Yeah. So kind of an upset, and I was definitely one of the biggest letdowns of, I think, 2020 for us. Absolutely. And another video game, we're going to keep with the video games here for a bit. Probably a pretty big one was Cyberpunk 2077. Mm-hmm. So we did actually include that on our list of the best of 2020. Same as Last of Us 2, but it also is on the list of worst because,
didn't live up to the
game delayed so many times. The hype was so high. Game finally launched, and it was just not finished. I mean, that's what you can say. They focused on the PC version and left the consoles in the dust, and they turned out horribly. It's just the bugs, the glitches, the loading, just everything. And all that was still in the PC version too. It wasn't just specific for the console versions, just worse than the console versions.
And there's no excuse because a lot of people say, oh, well, of course, it's way too big of a game to run on last gen. It's like, no, there are some pretty phenomenal games.
Last of Us was one of those games that ran really well on Last of Us.
Red Dead Tsushima.
Red Dead 2. God of War. I mean, there's these huge games that came out in this previous generation that Cyberpunk could have done that, and it just didn't happen. Witcher 3, for crying out loud, was a bigger overall game than this game's
better.
A lot condensed.
In every single way.
Yeah, just better. So, I mean, Cyberpunk 2077, there's good parts to it, but there's surrounded by a whole lot of bad, and I think the problem is it's been tarnished right now, and hopefully they can dig themselves out of that hole. Sounds like CD Projekt Red is really fighting to like fix it. So we'll see how it goes. But
now they're facing several lawsuits,
which they're fighting. So. But yeah, it just and all the controversy around just the game as well, like the lawsuits and all that stuff is just the reason why this was just a bad moment in 2020 for
one of the few
fans.
times that it's been refunds.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, you want your money back, you can get it. You played the entire game, you can have your money back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, big letdown. Another one that we haven't played, but we've known a lot of people that have played it, and that is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Long title there.
So, there's a reason why I haven't played it. I own it. It's not good. And I think the problem is, first off, I heard the campaign's like 4 or 5 hours long, which is, in this day and age, that's terrible. You cannot do that. I mean, and I think another problem was Modern Warfare was just gold tier, S-class Call of Duty game. Like, it was the best Call of Duty game in recent history, if not ever. I'm just throwing that out there. It was.
If it would have come out after Black Ops 4, it would have been much better received.
And the other big issue with this, it was the first Call of Duty game for the next gen consoles, and it just did not show up is the problem. And the problem is people only got it to get stuff for Warzone, like me.
Yeah.
So
that brings us to another issue with that. I think a lot of people just didn't buy it because they wanted to get it on a new console, but they haven't been able to get their hands on one.
Yes.
Which brings us to another worst part of 2020, and that is the launch and the pre-order dumpster fire that was the next gen.
Is it?
Wait, they're still going on. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
about the same.
Still on fire. So I'm sure if everyone knows, they weren't there. They showed up randomly. They got sold out. Websites crashed. People bought them but didn't actually have them. They got refunded when they thought they had one. People are now getting mugged outside of stores who actually get one.
The bots for scalpers out there are buying them up faster than somebody can click a button on the computer.
People are now selling their empty boxes for the same price.
For 50 bucks.
People aren't even reading it, and they're like, oh, a PlayStation 5, and they buy a box of the PlayStation 5. It is just a mess out there. So, Mitch has not had a chance to get one. I did.
Not for lack of trying.
Yes, I was lucky, I guess.
Lucky?
Well, I'll put it this way. I could have gotten a Series S several times, but I want the X because I've got disc versions of a lot of the Xbox games. I want to be able to play them. So I tried to get an X. Still have not been able to find one, get one online. And a big problem with this is that they are so sucked into doing it online only for the most part because of COVID. They don't want
that and
anybody
people,
to
and
be
for
around each other.
The safety, like I said, people are getting robbed in the parking lots at Walmart.
So because of that, these people that are building these bots are buying them faster than people could do it. It's been horrible and just a huge disappointment for true video game fans out there that are not out just to make a quick buck, that actually
especially
want to play
in a year where people were hurting and they were maybe saving up for this console and they weren't able to get one. It just kind of sucks because anyone who should get one should have been able to get one and not have to go through all the rigmarole of trying to buy one on eBay for $1,000. So
yeah,
$1 million.
But speaking of consoles, on the other direction is Nintendo had no consoles either. They sold out and actually could not keep up. And that was a problem for a lot of people. And this happened early on in the year due to Animal Crossing coming out. Animal Crossing came out and the full switches, switch lights, gone. Just disappeared.
And it's gone.
So
yeah. They got to a point where on the Facebook Marketplace, eBay, they were selling for almost twice as much in some instances as retail. I mean, the going rate for your regular Switch was $450 for a long time. That's like
crazy
for a used one, not even brand new.
Yeah. So Nintendo did come out and say we're back up to full production on this day. We'll be back in stock on this day. So they were at least were pretty. Like, we know we're out, we're making more, just be patient. And they are back on shelves now.
True to their word, it was about a month after they said it. They're like, hey, look out in the next month or so. They're going to be back on the shelves. Yep, boom, back on shelves. They are still flying off the shelves.
But
so
yeah,
if
but
you're going
that
into a
period
store,
from
don't be surprised
about late March to August, really. I think it's about when they, or later, September, was just, there was no Switches. So it was pretty upsetting for especially a lot of young kids, because young kids love Switches.
But they still managed to be the best-selling console for now going on 25 months straight, and that has to do with our last issue of the other consoles not being available.
Days weren't available, so. Yeah.
And speaking of Nintendo, another bad part about
Well, not
2020,
actually not speaking of Nintendo.
because they weren't there.
Yeah.
Nintendo was kind of a no-show for 2020, aside from Animal Crossing and Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity.
Yeah, a couple things here and there, but no hitters
No
like
big
Nintendo
things.
normally does.
They had the Mario anniversary with Super Mario 3D All-Stars and Mario Brothers 35, those things. But they didn't have any big titles aside from Animal
Yeah,
Crossing.
and no new announcements. Their directs were like
Not a single
full
Nintendo Direct that was not a Nintendo Direct Mini or a Nintendo Direct Indie. They did not have the big version where they announce big things or give us updates on big things. They just weren't.
which is
weren't around.
unlike Nintendo. They have a lot of titles in the works, I'm sure. They just didn't do anything this year. Last year.
Yeah, and I think it was because they honestly had to stop working on it. Japan was locked down more than anybody else. I mean, it's such a small space.
And
that
maybe it
everybody's
had to
in.
do with there's no inventory for the Switches, so they don't want to have it make the problem worse, saying like this game's coming, so people
Yeah.
are trying to get. Who knows? But they were a little absent, and especially in a year when you kind of needed
Needed some Nintendo.
It just kind of
They weren't there. We heard nothing of a new Zelda game, which was a disappointment. A lot of people thought it was going to come out this year, and they just haven't really said much. Aside from when they announced Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, they said, hey, it still exists, but we're not going to tell you more about it for quite some time. It's like, ugh. They just got hit hard, I think, with everything with COVID, and it just delayed a lot of things in 2020. So that's a lot of bad things that happened in 2020. If you want to hear about the good things, check out our other video, though. A lot of good things happened in 2020. If you like video game things, make sure to subscribe to
And
this
if you
channel.
don't like 2020, subscribe
to this channel. Make sure to give us a like, share with your friends, tag your friends. Helps us out a lot. We want to keep this channel going. Make sure to check out our other content, and always stop by with us here at
Super Platinum Achievement.
See you guys.